Listen to timely advice from experts as we discuss all things leadership and technology. You'll get the inside scoop on better business practices, from making the most of your technology to leading a company with your head and heart. Pull up a seat with Marco CEO Jeff Gow and President Doug Albrechts. Let's Tech.
All right, well, welcome back to another episode of Let's Tech, where we talk all things technology, innovation. We talk about all that loosely, I might add, but all things technology, innovation, and occasionally leadership. We think that for the most part, people enjoy it. And today, we're actually going to cover a topic we covered earlier on. I'm not sure which month, but I do remember the culprit and the guest that we had that day. But we're going to talk about security again and how important that is, not just to Marco's organization, but I think anybody that does anything that incorporates technology to run what they do, I think it would be a fair assessment to say that they have security needs. And security is really about, I think, risk management. And security organizations need to identify what those vulnerabilities are and make sure they're taking the proper measures to minimize their risk tolerance and to formulate a strategy aligned with their goals. And we just did this in our organization. We just had a launch of a suite of products, solutions that we're going to offer to help make our customers more secure. And we want to talk a little bit about that today. So we've got a great guest, a local. Do we have a drum roll? Who is instrumental in leading this. He's been a senior leader here at Marco for some time. So we welcome Trevor Akervik to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Appreciate being here.
It's good to have you. You're not nervous, right? You're
God,
you're
no.
old.
We're talking tech.
Maybe not an old podcast guy, but you've been around the block with big presentations and launching stuff, and you got a lot to share.
Yeah. And you know what? I hear from customers all the time. And so, security goes hand in hand with risk management, and every organization has to decide what their risk tolerance position is going to be.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting, and I think you agree. I haven't talked to you specifically about this, but I did talk to I've talked to Mike Burgard, and I've talked to many other people that run businesses, and they're going to say the first thing on top of mind right now, everybody's freaking out because of what happened with COVID. The level of security incidents have just skyrocketed, and everybody thinks that they were covered before COVID, and now they're finding out that they're not even halfway to where they need to be. And I think that's an interesting thing to bring up. That's emerged relatively recently, and I think people are looking for good solutions to help prevent that.
Well, I think people have to decide who they're going to trust. And in your example, they trusted an organization or someone from an organization, and it didn't lead to a great outcome for them. And maybe they had a security incident that they go, well, now I have to refigure out what my position is going to be and who do I trust in all of that.
Yeah.
And you throw the media in all of this, and it really makes a business owner scratch their head and go, what do I do? What is right?
Yeah. And I think, I've heard you say this before, but, and I've heard it said by others outside of our company, that other people that offer security, but, it's not, I think everybody thinks here's what you need and you're done, but it's not like a one size fits all. And I think people get caught up on that. But I have heard when we talked about the launch, you said, it's not a one size fits all. So tell me about what you mean by that, or what that means to you. And maybe what did we do to kind of mitigate that, to not drop into that one size fits all category?
Yeah. Well, it's understanding the organization and their risk tolerance, number one, but then finding some way to foundationally assess where they're at today. Yeah. When you go to the doctor, they don't give you the prescription as soon as they walk in the room, right? And they gotta do a little assessing.
Yeah.
And that is at the foundation of how we want to approach customers, is going, hey, you don't have to believe me, believe the process that we use to help uncover things.
Yeah. What are you finding if you had to, with people that you've been talking to about this topic, in terms of our clients or in terms of any clients, because I think anybody that's listening to this that runs a business, what are you finding out their risk tolerance is? Is it pretty high right now? Is it pretty low?
It's low because of all of the glamorization in the media about these security incidents that are happening. And, they want to be focused on revenue generating activities in their business. That's what they're good at. That's why they're a senior leader in their organization. And so at the same time, they go, okay, well, how do I get my foundation so I know where to decision off of?
Yeah. So that's a good point. So if I'm a business, right, I have different needs, I have different goals, I have different risk tolerances, right? How should businesses, when you think about that, because it is complex, what are your thoughts on how they should actually approach security with just considering all the things we just talked about? I mean, from a broad stroke, what does that look like? Yeah,
from a broad stroke, it's first finding a way to establish where you're at and determine, are you in as good a position as you maybe thought you were, or are you in a worse position, which can sort of come down into a score, right?
Yeah.
And you take your score, that's what's unique to every organization. It's going to be different. And then what's also unique to every organization is what to do next then with the data.
Yeah.
So, and you have to think about it, you have to think about security not as an event, but sort of as an iteration forward. So if I score lower than I anticipated, I go, well, what are some easy, low cost, high impact decisions I could make that would move me forward and get me feeling better
right
where I'm at today?
Do you think that businesses have a challenging time kind of self-diagnosing what their security needs are?
Yeah. I think every business owner has a sense that their employees are their biggest risk.
Right.
But then again, it's what do I do about it? And it comes down to what am I willing to change the culture of my organization around the people part of things? And then how do I do that without damaging employee morale or the culture of my organization?
So it's great that you say that, because and we laugh because we've been dealing with this internally, right? You have employees that say, well, that's an invasion of my privacy. I don't want you to know where you did a double authentication, and during that double authentication, you can find out where my exact location is. I don't like that, right? So I think what you're saying is, you got to have a cultural mindset within your own organization to say, hey, even though these things may be inconvenient, even though these things, I don't like these things. And I think this is the challenge a lot of organizations have, but you have to do it, because if you want to eliminate, if you want to eliminate the risk, and as you look at your risk tolerance, you've got to have an organization that embraces it, no matter how difficult it might be, right?
Yeah. And what tone do you want to set? Because in that example, if I'm the employee and I do something damaging, I'm going to feel terrible that my actions caused something. So it's on the other end of that spectrum. You're protecting your employees from feeling that way, that go, geez, what I did damaged my organization and it could have been avoided.
Yeah, that's a good point. I haven't looked at it. I really didn't look at it from that standpoint. The vulnerability there is really key. So, we understand how companies should probably support this, and they need to do the assessment and all the things are going on. But how do we know how do we know, or how do you know, I guess would be the right way to say it, that you're getting it right, or you're getting the right data to look at the security assessment that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the feeling of getting it right is measuring in a similar way over and over again. So at least you're working off the same basis.
So repetition.
And
a baseline.
Yeah. And so we've taken the approach to go, how do we marry different sets of tools that allow information to emerge within an organization? So we're not changing the organization. We're just helping business leaders identify what's already within it in a way that allows them to decision off of it going forward.
So set standards, have a tools to assess compliance, know the vulnerabilities, know what the people are doing, kind of just a subset of all those things.
And businesses want to know how they do against their competitors, or how they do against the industry they're in. And so we want to establish a score-based system.
Yeah.
And if my score is different than your score, it doesn't mean mine's better and yours is worse. It just means it's my score. And so what can I do from that? And we, at Marco, we want to empower people that maybe don't understand the complexity of security to make confident decisions about improving security in their workplace for their organization. And creating a baseline score gives us a great foundation to work off of with business leaders.
So I would say that company leaders or probably IT decision makers are probably grappling with this the most. But as they look and survey their organizations, except for the obvious, I'm going to ask you what surprises business leaders the most as they go through this process. The obvious one is, oh, crap, we're not secure enough. But outside of that, because if you do the assessment, you're probably going to find that might be the reason why you're doing the assessment. What other surprises do you think they bump into?
You know, the one of the biggest things outside of what you said, which you're right, that is the first one is, wow. Yeah. But the second biggest surprise would be that you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a big impact.
Yep.
And I think that is a misnomer that we're trying to change with the customers we interact with, is that it isn't always applying a new technology or a new tool. It oftentimes is common sense first. An example might be, hey, we could spend an hour helping you create a better password policy for all of your employees to use. Almost free, but a huge impact in terms of your security position just by that one change.
Yeah. And I think, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, I think some organizations fall into the trap, well, I can cover that with insurance or something, to that degree of, well, I have insurance for that if something goes wrong, right? And I think, you wouldn't leave your doors unlocked and you wouldn't leave a fire can and matches with your kid in the house and say, well, you know what, I don't really care because I have insurance on the house for what happens, right? And I think a lot of people get caught up in that. Have you seen that at all, or is that just a misnomer that I'm hearing?
Well, the most engaged clients are ones that have had a security event in their organization because they're really tuned in and wired at that point because they had an experience. Yeah. What we want to draw out for those that hadn't yet had an experience is that, we can do minimal amounts of effort to help you identify key areas of risk that might have very easy solutions or no or low cost things to solve. And so we're trying to bring business owners and leaders into that discussion, regardless of when it's right for them, to go, hey, there's no harm in establishing a score.
Right.
What if you learn something that easily solved that could avoid an insurance claim potentially?
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. And you played it. You played a big role in the recent launch of what we're doing here at Marco to help us secure our customers. You've obviously watched from the periphery of what we're doing at Marco to help us secure Marco, which is also we always have that internal kind of external security thing going on. So, how would you assess? I guess, how is Marco helping leaders approach security that's could be different from others that are approaching security in the same manner as we are?
Well, simplicity is the best word I could use there. I mean, it's also somewhat too often misunderstood that we think of an organization and we go, well, they're IT staff. Most organizations we work with don't have dedicated professional IT staff. Right. And so somebody gets that responsibility by being the most computer savvy usually. And they become the multitasker in the office. They may be the CFO as their primary responsibility, but because they're techie, they're the go-to for these things. And so there is people making decisions purely based on fear. We want to help remove the fear by shining a light in the corner and going, here's really what you're up against. We provide people that are trustworthy to give fact-based assessments of how risky is this really, and do I have to spend a lot of money to be better?
Go back to simplicity for a second. What did you mean by that when you said, we're trying to make it, I guess you're saying simple, right? Yeah. So it's not that the solutions are necessarily simple, but we're making it simple to help assess the situation and then to help make sure that we're providing the solutions. We're making that a simple process. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. And maybe a medical term is like a doctor simplifies their evaluation of what might be wrong with you so that you can understand it.
That's good.
And that's what we're trying to do is we know fear is present. we're trying to take that fear away by going, hey, we can think logically here, and we can take steps over time to get you to a good or great spot in security, which allows you then to maneuver your budget around things that are lower cost, high impact, and then maybe further out are high impact, higher cost type things.
You know, Trevor, you just made it more simple for me. I appreciate that.
Well, you, like many of the people we talk to, that they appreciate that.
I'm like that. You got to dumb it down for guys like me. That's for sure. So I appreciate that. No, so I think you've had a chance. I mean, I know during this process, you talked to a lot of, you've always been very well connected to our customers here at Marco, which is something that has been important for our success, but you're going to continue to do that, obviously, in the role that you have. I think the question is, once, you've seen these organizations, make effective decisions once they get the facts, right? Are they really making good decisions once they get the facts? Are they embracing that, or what usually happens?
Yeah, I think it's sort of a sense of excitement, might be a little bit of a stretch, but it's the fears removed and clear thinking becomes present.
Yeah.
And, we try to do a great job of laying out simple approaches to improvement. Getting to the best isn't a one decision situation. So it's a series of a whole bunch of small decisions. And so when people feel that level of understanding sort of come back into their control, they can see themselves going back to revenue generating activities because now they have an approach that is based on facts and is based on their control of their situation.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, Mike Burgard and I talked a lot about these same discussions because and for those of you listening, Mike Burgard is our CISO. We had him on. We were talking about security. He's taught me everything I know about security because I knew zero pretty much when I got into the job. But the thing about security that I want to bring this up to you because we talked in general about, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, is the fact that sadly the risks just evolve daily or weekly and over time. Organizations have to figure out how they assess their situation and how they manage risk and how they manage the security threats. And I think that's the most important thing. So when we're talking to them and we offer our solutions, are we considering that too? Or is we don't have enough sight into the future to see what risks are, so we're kind of playing in the now? How does that work?
Well, the very nature of how we've constructed our offering puts it in place that it starts and it's ongoing. So it repeats itself over and over and over again. And that's intentional because the landscape of security and risks are changing rapidly. Our industry already has that reputation of changing things very frequently. Yeah. Security has just accelerated that 100-fold.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say, our group here, our team here at Marco's experienced this firsthand because we're setting out all sorts of, plants and things to try to trick them into giving into things that they shouldn't be giving into and it's more of an educational thing. And I think that's really important that you live and breathe it and you test and, we do all those things internally. And I think the good thing to talk about here is we used a lot of that knowledge that we took internally to be able to offer some of that expertise to our customer set, right? I think you played a role in that.
It's foundational, really, to any of the offerings that we ever put out in front of our customers is that, we learn from our own participation in them. And right. You know what? In some of those things, our employee base didn't do great either.
No.
Initially.
Initially, no.
And myself included, I fell to a phishing.
We fell to the same thing.
Yeah. And so you do have to bloody your nose sometimes to really grasp the understanding of what has to happen. And the realization is that it's not just a technology or a system in place. It's really about awareness.
Yeah.
Foundationally.
Yeah. And there's so much at risk. And that's the thing that I think everybody is grappling with because there's so much at risk if there's a security breach, because not all security breaches are the same. I mean, they're all very, very different. And I think that, when we talk to our stakeholders, we're always saying like the biggest threat that's on the horizon is something that could damage our credibility, something that could damage our brand. It has everything to do with security. So we take it very seriously here at Marco, and I know you've played a role in that, and I'm very happy with where we're at. And I'm sure there's things we can do in the future. But anything you want to leave us with before we?
No, I think that our experiences with our clients help us be better for them. It helps us build stronger solutions to bring back to them, and we are really looking at it for our customers, going, how do we have big impacts with low cost?
Right.
And that is not everybody in our industry's way and approach, but foundationally, that is how we intend to work with our customers.
Yep. And so if someone's listening to this today and they have a question about security, or maybe they want to talk to Marco about helping them secure their. Here we go again, Brittany. I got to do it. Don't edit this out, please. How can they go about doing that? Can they call Marco? Can they just talk to their rep, or how would you recommend that?
Yeah,
work?
if you have a relationship with someone at Marco, that's the best place to start. If you don't, our website is a wealth of knowledge, and it gives opportunities for you to notify us that you want to learn more, and we'd be happy to talk to you.
That's marconet.com. So we want to make sure we get that plug in. Well, thank you very much for being here today. I know that we're all very busy, and we really appreciate your time, but more so we appreciate your expertise.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. So that is another episode of Let's Tech, all things leadership, all things technology. Please subscribe if you haven't had a chance to subscribe, because we like to, the more the merrier. We have 4 million followers. I usually try to let you know how many we have this week, but we have 4 million followers. Please subscribe. And if there's any feedback you want to give us, we're wide open to feedback, right, Brittany? We want to hear about it. So until next time, let's tech.